Hey, what's up, y'all? In this month's tutorial, we're going to be looking at making our riffs sound more massive and more mean and aggressive. You just heard me jamming on some drop C riffage. Now, one thing you may have noticed is I wasn't just playing the riffs normally. I was doing kind of like a pseudo pinch harmonic on the low notes. So when we think of pinch harmonics, we think of, Dimebag, old ZZ Top stuff. And it's always, most of the time, on solos and like higher notes. But I love getting almost like a cocked wah, Dallas Rangemaster-ish tone by just using a pinch harmonic on those low riffs. I'm going to play the riff just normal, just using the pick. And then I'm going to play it with my technique, which kind of makes that sound. So here it is normal. Okay, so that sounds awesome, but it could sound better. It could sound cooler, more pinched, more tonal, if that's the right word to use. So what I'm gonna do, and again, that was just all pick, just the pick doing it. I'm gonna hold my pick all the way at the very, very end. So the first thing that touches the string is kind of the edge of my pointer finger. It's a good blend between the skin on the tip of your pointer finger and then some of the nail. And then the back half of the attack, the pick is gonna get. And then after that, it's almost like it's muting a little bit from the edge of the thumb. Kind of hard to explain, but. So that sounds like a wah-wah. And in order to get more of that pinch sound, I'm letting the initial attack of the string hit more of my pointer finger nail. So. Now, what I want you to do is put the pick down and just pretend like you're holding a pick and try it like that. And that'll kind of give you the idea of what you're gonna need to pick with. What I do recommend is using a lot of gain for this, fuzz, distortion, whatever. Just do this over and over until you can get that pinch sound. Now, after a couple tries, you'll figure out where it's going to work best for you. Everyone's hands are different. And then now you're going to get the pick back in your hand. And the pick is going to add that kind of blend of the original. So that's all pick, and I'm going to add the technique. Now, I like this sound because it is shaving off low end. In a real life scenario, guitar players, I've said this before, we don't need to cover the bass frequencies. In a recording scenario, we definitely don't need to be covering the bass frequencies, and I'll get into something cool here in a second. But with this riffage, with the pinch harmonics, it doesn't just work for... It doesn't just work with the solos. It actually sounds, in my opinion, better and a little bit less cheesy with riffs. Now, I'm gonna try to get as close as possible to the camera so you can really see what's happening here. It's almost barely hitting the pick. Here's without that technique, just all pick. Now with. Anyway, yeah, it sounds like there is, if you've ever used a really good treble booster in front of a high gain amp or even into a distortion pedal, or done like the kind of cocked wah sound where it's a little bit, you know, more trebly and throaty, it's almost that same sound, but you don't need to rely on a pedal to get this sound. You can actually just do it with your fingertips. It's pretty cool. Okay, so now I want to go into something totally different. We're gonna do a similar riff, and I want to talk about how when you're recording to double track and actually even triple track riffs, to make them fit together, we're going to use some EQ and just some basic balancing, just real simple stuff to make everything fit together and not be super muddy, but sound massive. Okay, so we have 3 tracks. I've tracked 3 of the same riffs. We're just gonna loop it. So here's the center one. Here's the left riff. And then the right. So the first thing that I've done is I just did a little gain reduction on all of them just to bring down the level because they were clipping a little bit. So the center one is at -2, and then the left and the right are at -5, because you're gonna get an automatic perceived loudness with the ones that are panned hard left and hard right. So I turned those down about 3 decibels from the center one. Now together they all sound like this. Okay, so that's pretty meaty. Now, what I'm gonna do 2 things. The first concept when triple tracking a riff is to let the center have all the low end frequency and kind of like the full range of the frequency. So let's just solo out the left one. We're gonna leave the center one alone for now, but let's solo the left one. I'm gonna apply some high frequency pass filters. We're just gonna use simple stock Logic plugins. So here's before. It's got a lot of that woof that we don't need on the sides. All right, I'm gonna copy that and bring it over to the right channel. Let's solo just the sides. All right, now let's bring in the center. Okay, so that's pretty awesome. Now let's play it without those EQs on the stereo, on the left and right channels. So as great as that sounds, we have to remember there's bass guitar and other instruments, kick drum, bass guitar, toms, that have to fill in a lot of the low end space. So I like shaving off guitars really up to like 300 hertz. So now another thing that you can do, I'm going to take off the one on the right, and we're just going to do that same processing but only on the center channel. So here's the center with that EQ. And let's hear what it sounds like with the mix. So that works really well if the bass is panned center and the bass is real low and subby and ripping, then the sides can have a lot of the beef, and then all the thump and low end is, you know, clearing out for the bass guitar in the center. So I like that a lot. Another thing we can do is let's bring back those low end cuts on the channel, on the left and right channels, and let's do something with the center. So since we're getting a lot of the high end in the left and right channels, I want to play around with shaving off high end on the center channel. So let's solo that. I want to get that like sizzle out of it. That's pretty cool too. All right, so now what if we just treated the center as just mid-range? So let me solo this. That's really cool. That's creating a lot of separation between the left and right tracks with the center. I used the same exact amp sound for all three tracks, but it sounds, even just with a little basic EQ, spending just 10 seconds, you can almost get like a totally different sound, almost like it's another amp. That's a pretty cool like cocked wah sound in that center one. That's pretty sweet. So the moral of this lesson is not every guitar that you track needs to be the biggest, damnedest thing in the world. you got to create space for different tracks, and you got to think about other instruments. So I almost never triple track guitars. With All Them Witches, it's one, maybe two guitars here and there to like make moments of the song bigger. But I'm still going to use the same kind of processing just to create space, with, you know, making them even out and not step on the bass's toes, step on the drum's toes. The guitar is a mid-range instrument, and if you kind of have fun and process your tracks, you know, focusing more on the mid-range and getting different sounds, it can create really cool layers. So I hope that this was a fun, helpful metal riff tutorial, and let me know if you guys dug it. I know I did. That was a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys learned something. Make riffs and play around with EQs. It's super fun. All right, thank you guys for watching. Cheers.